So yeah, Anna-Marie is going to share some of her tips and tricks that she's picked up over the years, I think, with CFS. And she's put them together in a really great PowerPoint, and we'll be able to share the PDF of the slides afterwards with the notes. So, you know, just absorb it and listen to it now, and you can always read them in detail later. But I think we're going to learn a lot. We'll recognise that we do some of the same things. Yeah. And we're really grateful for you to putting everything together. It's a big effort. Yeah, and oh yeah, I'll leave you to it. Thank you, Maria.
Hello. I don't know how, I think I know most people in here. But for those who don't know me, or a lot of you might not know my story anyway, my name's Anna-Maria. I used to be a microbiologist when I was first got sick. Then I went into academics, went back to university, became academic manager for the College of Arts, various jobs along those lines, teaching things. So I'm a former lots of different things. I've been sick since 2005, after I woke up one morning with a cold or something. Haven't been right since. And I stopped working in 2015. I've been what I call medically retired since 2016. So I'm on supported living because I'm not able to work at all. Okay, so why LOREM IPSEM Life? Since it's called LOREM IPSEM Life Tips. LOREM IPSEM Life is my blog. I have a blog about living with ME. Mostly I do it to keep myself entertained and to educate people about living with ME, since so many people just don't understand. And particularly the people who are sort of close to me in my life. But the people within my household see it, but the people like my family don't necessarily. And so it can be quite frustrating. So I put it down on the blog, and if they read it and understand, it's great. Otherwise, other people read it and understand the people in their lives. So LOREM IPSEM sounds like Latin. It's gibberish. It's placeholder text that graphic designers use when they're designing templates for websites or books or things like that. They use it, so it's just placeholder rubbish text. And I used it because life with ME can feel a bit like placeholder rubbish text. So that's why it's LOREM IPSEM. The tips and tricks, it was a series of posts I did on my Facebook, the blog's Facebook page. I had a lot of friends who were getting COVID and long COVID, and I was repeating myself. Like every time I saw them or spoke to them online, I found I was repeating exactly the same things, saying, you know, you've got to do this, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. And I thought, I'm just wasting so much energy. I need to put this somewhere where I can just share it and where it can get to people who I don't personally know. So I started doing a series of tips of just things that I've learned over 15 years, 17 years now of living with this, of how to manage the illness, manage my energy, and make life slightly more worth living. Rose saw the posts and said, can you turn that into a talk? So that's why I'm here. So the reason you have a handout, the handout has some recipes, 3 recipes, so that I don't have to go into them in great detail, and some resources so that you can take those home if you need them. And at the bottom there is a section for notes, so that you can write down any questions or thoughts you have, because of my ME, my brain is mush. If I lose my train of thought, I'm unlikely to be able to find it again. So if we stop for questions during the presentation, I'm likely, like if you want to ask elaboration and things like that, or have a comment on it, I'm likely to forget where I'm up to and forget a whole lot of things that I wanted to say. If you need to ask for clarification, by all means, ask for clarification, but try to keep it to the thing that I'm right on. So write down any questions that you've got. I just need the pens back at the end because they're from my hoarded stash of pens that I never use. And as Rose said, the PowerPoints will be available if you want them. And it actually includes extensive notes of everything I've said, roughly. Okay, so the actual talk. We'll start with my core principles for ME management and my rules for living with ME. You've got to pinch those pennies. So you're trying to save sort of 5 cents of energy here, 10 cents of energy there. So the mantra, your mantra should be never run when you can walk, never walk when you can stand, never stand when you can sit, never sit when you can recline or lounge, never recline when you can sleep. So if there is a way of doing it, in an easier way of doing it, a way of expending less energy, do it that way. Don't use anything unnecessary or put in any effort that isn't absolutely essential. I'll give you some examples, some specific examples. So never run when you can walk. So this one should be really obvious to any of us who've been sick for more than a few weeks. But it's surprising how long this one can really take to sink in. You've got to slow your life down in every way. So that means you can't be a high-powered, jet-setting, gym-bunnying executive rock star that you might have been in your former life or thought you were going to be, or any of those things. This is surprisingly hard to come to terms with. But that's a big one. If you're wanting to exercise, you've got to keep it low energy. No more running on a treadmill or cross-country mountain biking. Walk, go for a gentle walk or a stroll, or cycle around Hagley Park gently. Never rush anywhere. Always allow yourself enough time that you don't have to panic and rush. Avoid adrenaline. It is the enemy. And that also means highly charged emotions, or anything else that can challenge your body's systems. And do I talk about that here? No, okay. And use a trolley to carry things. So I put that under running because it's extra effort when you're walking. If you can, use a trolley. I have a trolley in the kitchen. Even at the supermarket, don't use the basket, use a trolley, even if you're only picking up 3 things. It's not worth the effort. Never walk when you can stand, obviously. Avoid unnecessary walking. Then that is especially around your house. It's really easy to avoid walking when you're out of the house, but at home we get into the habit of, I'll just go and walk over there. But this is where you can save the most energy. So keep what you need close to where you need to be. If you need to be in bed, make sure everything that you're going to need is within arm's reach or a few steps of your bed, so that you can reach it without having to walk from room to room. Ignore what convention says about arranging your house, because the rules don't apply to us. So arrange your home to suit how you need it and how you need to use it. So that means if you've got your kettle in the kitchen, but you only ever use the kettle to make yourself cups of tea, which you then take into the lounge and sit down, put your kettle in the lounge. Fill it up once a day. You can take a jug of water in there and fill it up, and you can sit there at your armchair, have a little tea station that's 2 steps away instead of 10. And you make your cup of tea and you stay. You can even do it on your seat if you've got it well enough arranged. I have a tea station, actually full. I'll go into more detail about that, but I have a kettle in my bedroom for exactly that reason, because our kitchen is like 3 blocks from my bedroom. So if I want a cup of tea, it's very important for it to be close to me. There's only so much I can rely on my husband to make me cups of tea on a whim, because he might not be in the room with me in the 30 seconds that I remember I want one. Redundancy and duplication of the things that you need a lot. That means rubbish bins in every corner, or cell phone chargers. When I set up a new house, I was surprised by all of the places that I wanted rubbish bins. I was like, really? You've got 4 in the bedroom? But yes, I want 4. I've got a fairly large room, but I did need 4, because if I didn't, I was having to walk across the room to put something small in the rubbish. And I ended up finding a bag and sticking it on the floor there. So it's like, well, you might as well just have a rubbish bin there. Have chairs in the hallway if you need to have a pit stop to rest walking down the hall. Cell phone chargers in the lounge, as well as the bedroom or the kitchen or wherever it is that you charge your phone. Have cell phone chargers everywhere. They're not very expensive, and it's really worth it if your phone tends to go flat if you're using it a lot. Having a blanket next to every chair, so that if you do get cold, you don't have to get up and get one, just grab a throw. Things like that. It might only save you 5 steps, but 5 steps here and 5 steps there, and then another 5 steps. Before you know it, that's a whole trip to the kitchen and back, or hanging out the laundry. And that can make a difference to your day. It also means that you can expand your options for walls to stare at. So if you're not limited to having to the lounge, or have limited to the kitchen for certain activities, it means that you can move around your house a little bit more. You can stay there for a few hours because you're safe to stay there for a few hours. And it breaks up the monotony a little bit. And if you're not finished in that part of the house, you don't have to walk to another one to plug your phone in, or to go and get that cardigan or whatever, but you can stay where you are. Also pedometers and Fitbit type trackers help you keep track of your steps. We're not aiming for high steps. I have mine set to tell me when I'm reaching my limit. So this one doesn't go low enough, unfortunately, which is really annoying. But I had my last one set at 2,000 steps. It would tell me if I'd got to 2,000 steps in a day, because my limit's 3. So if I've hit 3,000 steps, I have to go to bed right now. So at 2,000, I know I've got to slow down. I'm running out of steps. And steps are just a rough indicator of activity, but it's helpful to get that little buzz to say, hey, you've done too much. So never stand when you can sit. Have stools and chairs everywhere, literally everywhere. Sit to brush anything you brush. So the reason for this is your feet and your head are too far apart. You've got to get blood from all the way down there, all the way up there, which takes a lot of work. Blood wants to fall down because it's subject to gravity. So your heart has to pump to keep it going. And that's hard work. It's also quite a few kgs of meat that you're holding up. And that takes a lot of energy as well. So the closer you can get your feet to your brain, so we'll try our yoga here. The closer you can have your feet to your brain, the easier life will be for your heart and your general body. That's not saying constantly sit with your feet behind your head, but that's, just think about that. Can I get smaller so that my blood doesn't have to pump so hard? So if you have stools everywhere, it also just means you can rest and when you've been doing activity. So that means shower stools and shower chairs, which is great if you get dizzy when you're showering from the heat. Means you don't have to worry about falling down. You can also shower sitting on the floor. It's easier if you got one of those handheld ones. If you can't fit a proper medical shower chair in your shower, you can usually find some fairly sturdy metal or plastic stools that will fit. Just make sure that it is sturdy enough, and that if you do need arms, like if you're likely to faint in the shower, you do need to have one with arms. So you might need to talk to an OT about possibilities there. I find I just get tired. It just drains me. So I would be okay with a stool. My current shower has a molded seat, so I couldn't fit a shower chair anywhere, but that's fine because I just sit on that molded seat and I can lean on the wall. And great. If you do get a non-shower chair, like you're just using a stool, then do make sure that you check it regularly for rust and stability, because the water is bad for the material and they can become quite brittle and dangerous. Just a little disclaimer there. Dressing chairs and stools in the bathroom. So that's just another chair not in the shower that you use for everything else, for dressing, for undressing, for sitting on while you're drying off, for brushing your teeth, brushing your hair. If you're going to put on your makeup or do a skincare routine or anything like that in the shower, sit down in the shower, in the bathroom, sit down to do it, because it's amazing how much more tiring it is to do that standing. If you want, you can get yourself a whole little vanity with Hollywood lights and things and feel like a star having your makeup done, but it's not necessary. Just a seat. I have a folding camp chair with a towel over it because it's metal, it's so cold, but that just lives in the corner of the bathroom. When I need it, comes out, sit down. It's really handy. Yeah, shaving as well, sit to shave. In the kitchen, you can get perching stools. If you have an OT, ask your OT about getting a perching stool. Otherwise, a bar stool does a similar job, and looks less like a medical device sitting in your kitchen as well, if you're conscious of that. They're a good height, so you just sort of lean on them rather than fully sit. Although you can, if you need to, take all of your weight onto the chair and sit. And they're good for when you're prepping food, doing dishes, anything where you're working at bench height. If you can't sit on a perching stool, then you can then do it at the kitchen table. Just sit lower. Even your dishes, you can do it at the kitchen table if you have like a low tub. And the advantage of that is you can fill it with cold soapy water, throw your dishes into soak, and just leave them there. And when you're ready to wash them, fill up your jug, which might now be in the lounge, and fill it with hot water. Just top it up with hot water to make it hot enough. Do your dishes, take them out, and then when you're finished doing your dishes, you either bail it out or carry what's left to the sink, that you don't have to stand at a sink. So rethink the spaces and how you need to use them. Don't get tied to this concept of dishes must happen in the kitchen sink. I do bedroom dishes from the kitchen jug, from the bedroom jug and stuff that gets done in the ensuite. Whoa, what's happened here? I've gone too far. So, as I said before, lower is better. The lower the chair, the closer your feet are to your heart and to your brain. So the easier it is to conserve energy there. So never sit when you can recline. So this is just about keeping your heart and your feet close. Having a recliner with a footrest, or whether it's one that pops up or if you just have like a ottoman in front of you or a footstool in front. Keeping your feet up when you're sitting is helpful. Just surprising amount of energy used in just sitting. I had a nap a couple of weeks ago on my armchair, and I woke up because my legs were tired. And I had to go to bed because my legs were too tired. It was too much energy holding myself up in this seat. And I needed to be in more of a lying position. So even sitting can be a lot of effort. Curling up on the floor is great, or just sitting on the floor. Obviously that's not an option everywhere. After a shower, if you're finding that even sitting is too much effort, use instead of using a bath mat, use a big fluffy towel and just lie down. Wrap yourself up in another towel or a warm robe and just let yourself dry by lying on this big warm fluffy mat, instead of sitting on a drying chair. Okay, 70s decor is very ME friendly. Shag pile rugs, very nice for lying on. Bean bags, or your feet and brain together. It's and it's very in right now. So yeah, we live in a very 70s house. We need to get more 70s decor. So anything where, think about that, like for yourself, grab a little lava lamp, throw some rugs on the floor, floor cushions, all very, very trendy and ME friendly. As long as you can get up and down off the floor. If you have mobility issues that stop, like hips and things that stop you getting up and down, you do need to think about whether it's worth the effort. We had to talk about exercise and ME earlier this year. So if you're interested in recumbent exercises to help with deconditioning and boredom, go see that talk. Very worthwhile. So there's lots of exercises that you can do in bed. You do not have to be upright to exercise. And those exercises you can do in bed alone. So big one is you don't need to shower every day. I know there can be a strong link between showering and mental health. Like for me, not being able to bathe regularly can compromise my mental health, because when I'm depressed, I don't shower. So I get into this sort of, I'm not showering, so I'm depressed. It's like, no, I'm not showering because it's too tiring. So you do have to find the balance there. But most people actually don't need a shower every day. Even healthy people. 2 to 3 showers a week is usually sufficient. More than that can actually compromise your immune system by removing protective horny layer on your skin. So don't stress if you can only have 1 or 2 showers a week. It's no big deal. So unless you're actually out in the garden getting dirty, or if you're sweating a lot because it's really hot or anything like that, you probably don't actually need to shower. Just refresh yourself with with a little sponge bath, wet cloth sitting at your sink. Don't put all of that effort in to a shower if you don't need it. It's amazing how much energy that saves. Work smarter, not harder. So there's various little things like Burrito Roll duvet cover change. I think I bought a pillowcase that I can demonstrate it if anyone's interested. I'll show you later if anyone wants to know. The Ninja Fold t-shirt fold. Again, it's a similar thing. It's like a one movement way to fold your t-shirts. And I can show you that one. Actually, I might just, that one's really cool. This won't show up on Zoom, unfortunately. Just like that. I haven't done that one for about 1.5 years because I changed how I fold the t-shirts, but for when we put them away. But it's a really easy way you can get through an entire basket of t-shirts in about 3 minutes. And it's quite fun. It's just one movement. Long sleeves get difficult with that one, but very low effort way of folding clothes. So find things like that. YouTube has lots of good tips. Avoid ironing. Ironing is the devil. So there are lots of ways that you can avoid having to do ironing, such as using a tumble dryer with a crease guard setting, so where it keeps tumbling it every now and then until you take it out. Or if you don't have a crease guard setting, just take the high creasing, like the stuff that creases a lot, take that out as soon as it's dry, and leave everything else to wallow. After getting them out of the washing machine, just shining. I hang them on a hanger, like shirts get hung on a hanger, which then go hanging on the rack. So then I just take the hanger and hang it on the wardrobe. There's no no double handling. If we could dry them in the wardrobe, they'd just go straight in the wardrobe. You can also change your entire wardrobe to wash and wear clothes, like things that don't need ironing, picking your fabrics so that they don't crease. But that's expensive and limiting about hanging clothes. I don't know what that was about hanging clothes. It must have been hanging clothes right away. Okay. Don't rely on your brain for anything. If you have a thought that you need to remember, write it down. Even if you try to remember it, have notebooks so you can write it down, or an app, or on your phone, or a recording device, anything like that, so that you can go back and find it. Because our brains use most of our energy and we don't have a lot of it. So if you can avoid having to stress your brain with remembering that you wanted that thing, just write it down. You do try to remember, it keeps your brain nimble. And it's a good way to judge how you're feeling. Like, oh, yeah, I remembered a thing. But have that backup. There's amazing technology around these days, apps that remind you all sorts of things, like timers that tell you that it's time to have lunch, you know, if you forget to do things. I like using my phone in electronic diary for a lot of it, because I don't remember to remember. And that way I get a notification or an annoying alarm that just keeps going. Drink through a straw. If you can, use a straw. It means not having to lift a cup. There are lots of options these days for both hot and cold drinks, disposable and reusable. Silicone, bamboo, metal, and good old-fashioned plastic, paper. The bendy plastic straws were invented for us. They were invented for people who were bedridden, who needed to drink. So, and everywhere in the world that's outlawing plastic straws are still allowing the bendy straws for people with disabilities. So don't feel guilty. There's a whole greenwashing thing going on there that I won't get into. You are allowed to use straws. Go for it. And this is a weird one. Hard floors, don't sweep your hard floors except as sort of an in-between to get visible dirt. If you're planning on mopping the floor, vacuum it rather than mopping it. This saves a significant amount of work in the mopping. I used to work at a laundry, a full service laundromat in town, and I did the floor mop once a week. The girl who worked during the week would just sweep every day, and it would get so filthy I had to fold all the sheets and stuff without getting them on the floor, and that's surprisingly difficult, but I can do it. Or I used to be able to do it. I haven't tried lately. But so when I mopped, I noticed that if I swept and then mopped, it would take sometimes 5 passes, so 3 times with soap and then 2 rinses before it would be clean. If I vacuumed and then mopped, 1 pass with the soap was enough. I'd still give it a rinse because I found that it would get sticky next week. It wouldn't be as clean. But so 1 pass with the soap and then once with the water was enough. So you can save yourself a lot of mopping if you vacuum. In fact, if you vacuum instead of sweeping, just leave your vacuum cleaner out. Or better yet, get a robot one. You save mopping. We might have just lost them. Okay. I think it's going again. Yeah, it says recording. Okay. I'll just assume that it's okay. Yeah, sure. All right. Now we move into some other bits and pieces. Environment and lifestyle. So these are things that didn't fit into those categories. I did about 80 tips and tricks. So trying to get them into a couple of different themes it's quite hard. Limiting to themes. So this is about how to make your life fit your ME. So this little bit is finding your limits. So finding your limits and your tells. And this is an iterative process, which means you have to do it over and over. I do it quite regularly, like every few months, or if I feel like something's changed, I'll sort of return to this to find my base again. So the first thing you need to do is work out what are the signs that your body gives you that it's reached its limits. And early on, they'll be the big things that have told you that you've gone way too far. Like for me, that I've gone way too far is that I suddenly burst into uncontrollable tears. And it's like my body is sobbing. The only other time I've experienced something like that is when I fell and injured my hand quite badly, and just the pain, I couldn't really feel the pain, but I kept crying. And I was like, I know I'm in pain, but I can't feel it. It's so bad. So, you know, there's tells like that, or some people passed out. There's paralysis. Temporary paralysis is a not uncommon one. You'll have your own tells. You'll know what they are, but the big ones are easy to identify initially. So when you first learning this, you're trying to avoid those. The further you go, the better you get at it. You have to start to try and identify those little quiet requests from your body that say, can we have a sit down, please? And it might just be that you're shaking. It might be that you are getting a headache. Or, you know, starting to feel queasy. It may be that you start to cough. I notice there's a weird thing that happens with my muscles. If I'm walking around, my muscles feel different. Like I can feel the lactic acid in them, and it's actually how I knew that my remission was ending in 2012. Went up a flight of stairs and it felt like they'd seized up. It's quite weird. So things like upset stomach, burning throat, sore ears, dizziness, brain fog, confusion, jumbled words, changes in your blood pressure or heart rate. These are all like often little signs. You might, so when the better you get at it, the more you'll be able to pick up on those little things. And when you know those tells, from there, you're able to do this better, to help find whether you've actually reached or found your limit. So the first thing to do is identify your minimum activity level that you can stand to do. This is not your maximum activity that you should be doing. This is the minimum you can handle doing in a day without going insane. And then aim to do half of that. It's very hard. You'll probably hit 80% of that. But the idea is to try and go lower than you think you should be doing. When you're doing that, you might find that you're still getting these symptoms. So try and half it again. Do less and less and less until you find a point where you can function through the day with minimal or no symptoms. You may not be able to reach a point where you go through life with no symptoms, because for some people even just breathing is enough. But find a point where you think, okay, this is where I can live. This is brilliant. Like I could, if I could keep my life at this level of pain, I would be quite happy. You could probably go further than that if you're still doing anything, but see how you go. Stay there for a few weeks and then start to add things in. Slowly, very gently, because that wall will jump out of nowhere really hard. So, and then if you hit that wall, pull back a bit, stay there a bit. And you just keep doing this until you find a point where you're like, okay, this is stable. I can keep fairly well managed on an even keel. And I'm no longer having those big ups and downs, or I'm able to plan for them because I know that this activity is going to cause this much. This is the best advice I ever received from managing the ME, and I don't know where I read it. I'm so annoyed because I haven't been able to find it again. But yeah, half of what you think you should be doing, half of what you think you can do, and instead of starting with where you think you are. It's hard, you get really bored, but boredom, getting used to boredom is really important for us. And that helps you know where your energy is going. So your energy, does everyone here know the spoon theory of energy? Everyone knows about spoons, yeah. It's a model people use to describe how what it's like living with chronic illness. I don't like spoon theory. I don't think it fits ME, so you don't really need to know it. I was only bringing it up so I can say, here is my alternative. Spoon theory is very sort of, you have this much energy to spend each day. You get new spoons every day. But with ME, what I found is it's more like you're living on the interest from a cash investment. So you've got like a fixed term deposit, and you're getting paid out from your fixed term deposit every day or every month. Now we'll say weekly. Weekly sort of seems to be about the right kind of range for energy renewal. So every week you get paid this income, and if you go over that income, you're drawing from the principal, which means next week your interest payment is less. You may not notice it initially, which is why when we first get sick, you might cut back a little bit, but we keep getting worse and worse and worse. And we're like, oh, everything I do just makes me more sick, because we're still eating into our principal. So our interest payments are getting lower and lower and lower until eventually they're almost not livable. And that's the point where you go, oh my God, I've got to stop. But the good news with that is that if you can save energy, you can slowly rebuild that principal. So the more energy you can save, slowly, can take years, you can build it back up and get a little bit more of a buffer for each day. There are some problems with the model. It's not 100%, but it's I find it works better than just straight spoons, because your activity this week affects your energy that you have to play with next week. And it does describe that degeneration that happens if you push too far too often. Emotional energy is energy too. Very important to take that into account. We all remember that stress is important, to take that into account. Remember to include positive emotions, to have something in the budget for positive emotions. And don't underestimate how much energy they take. My largest crash ever was a few weeks after my wedding. I dealt with the physical side of things, was when I came down emotionally and suddenly I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't even lift a fork to eat. It was terrifying. So we knew that we couldn't go on our honeymoon straight away because didn't know how big or how long that crash was going to last. And so we'd accounted for it, but didn't know that it was going to be quite as bad as it was. That emotional energy had just been so exhausting. So don't forget emotional energy. And it can wipe you out for days. Going to the doctor yesterday and not being heard, and the emotional draining of that. I'm still feeling it today. So I'm feeling quite low energy today. I was feeling fine yesterday before going, and it's very much the emotional side. There was not a lot of physical activity. Sensory input requires a lot of processing. Limit yourself. So that means think about things like if there's background noise, can you limit the background noise? Do you need to wear sunglasses when you're outside because the bright light can be too much? And it can be as little as thinking about the clothes you're wearing and whether they are distracting to your senses. So textures or the fit, like if something is, I've got a pair of leggings that they've been cut slightly off the grain, so they twist and they don't stretch equally in the two directions. So when I bend, they pull down, and it's really annoying. They would be like my ideal pair of pants if it wasn't for that, because they're fluffy inside and they're so comfy and they get just the right compression. But every time I move, they feel like they're twisting, and it just creates this mental, takes mental energy and stuff from that I would rather not be putting into my clothing. Also, if I wear a mask and anything else on my head, suddenly my brain is like, I can't do this, and stops like processing visual information because I'm wearing a hat. It's like so knowing what your brain can tolerate is important, and limit yourself to one thing a day. What your one thing is might be different to what someone else's one thing is. Like for some people, one thing is having a shower. For others, one thing is going out and doing 6 errands once they've left the house, because leaving the house is the thing. But when you know what your one thing is, try to limit it to that. From a pragmatic perspective, you might have to average that over a number of days. So it might be that you're doing 2 things today, so you can't do anything tomorrow. So do everything you can to help your body. So identify your ideal temperature range and stay within that. So I'm a lizard or a Jane Austen heroine. If I get wet or cold, I take to my bed with a fever for weeks. Whereas I know a lot of you guys can't tolerate the heat at all, and are much better living in a fridge. I would die if I was in a fridge. Air conditioning for me is terrible. Like I'm often too cold in summer because I only start to feel warm when it hits 30 degrees. Help your autonomic nervous system as much as you can by staying hydrated, very hydrated. We have issues with blood volume. So whether that means water or electrolytes, you need to talk to your doctor about whether you can have electrolytes, because some people can't, but you need to stay hydrated. You need, it makes a big difference. Compression clothing, which again keeps the blood getting to your brain more easily, and squeezing your butt. We learned about these in the orthostatic intolerance talk we had earlier this year as well. So a few callbacks there. Go check that one out. Squeezing your butt pumps blood to your brain if you're feeling some brain fog because you're fatiguing. squeeze your butt, you can pump a couple of liters up to your brain really fast that way, and it helps just assist your heart. Treat resting like your day job. This is now your full-time work from home job. Set yourself up accordingly. Make your bed somewhere nice to be. Make yourself a little office motel suite like I've got, if you can. This isn't an option for everybody, obviously. We have a whole little motel unit essentially set up in our bedroom suite. We've got the ensuite, we've got a coffee maker, a fridge, a jug, snacks, things like that, all within the bedroom, so I don't have to leave the room to get food. We also have a fruit bowl and things like that. Obviously, if your room is small, you maybe, and it was quite an investment. But set yourself up in a way that makes where you need to be. Could make a lot of time in these spaces, so make it a place that is not your bed where you can rest, just to give yourself a break from staring at the same things. Which means invest where you rest. Make the place pleasant. Nice sheets, nice pajamas and loungewear. There's these anti-gravity beds and anti-gravity lounges that have you in a sort of a zigzag, and oh man, your whole body when you lie on those, it suddenly just goes it just relaxes. It's fantastic. I'm just aware that we're running out of time, so I'm going to have to hoon through some of these. Pillows, all of the pillows, you don't have to sleep with pillows, just use them to stack around you so you don't have to hold yourself up if you're sitting in bed or on the couch. Over bed tables too. Technology. Get mobility aids. That's quite tiny. Walking sticks and walkers, those sorts of things, very helpful. If you don't have a walking stick with you and you want to take some of the effort from your brain, there's a trick that dancers and yoga, people who do yoga and things like that, use for balance. So when they're standing on one foot, how do you stop yourself from falling over? And we can employ that to help ease the effort for our brains. And that's find a fixed point, not too far away. So like if I was doing it from here, I'd probably pick that podium, find a spot on it, fix your eyes on it, and then walk towards it. And it gives your brain a point of reference that says, this is up, this is down, this is, I am moving in space, and this is something that's not. And it makes life easier for it. Online shopping. It's really good. We had a talk about that a few weeks ago. Online shopping can be used for pre-purchase browsing as well. That means you can do all your research, you can check out what's available, you can find out what stores it at, who's got it cheaper, all that kind of thing before you leave the house. So you don't have to traipse around. The new version of let your fingers do the walking. Fully adjustable ironing boards, the ones that have the little catch there that makes it slide up and down rather than having fixed points, means you can use an ironing board as a table, a portable table, and you can have it anywhere. You can have it as a coffee table and then pull it up to use it as a dining table height, just in front of your chair. Very useful little thing. Could be worthwhile for people. Reading glasses are like walking sticks for your eyes. So they take the effort off. You don't have to have ocular degeneration, just it helps your brain, makes life easier. Read with plenty of light if you're reading. If you don't want to lift, if you can't have the jug in the bedroom or the lounge, fill a thermos in the morning and use thermos flasks instead of having to traipse back and forward. Running belts for carrying things. If you don't have pockets, this is a running belt. just holds everything close to your body. It's just a pocket that goes around your waist. It's not like a bum bag, it doesn't stick out. It's sort of like a cross between a bum bag and a old style money belt. It's just, I've made this from a bit of lycra, and it's just got, where's the hole? A hole in the top there, put things on. This was made for my old phone, so it's actually slightly too small now. I'm gonna have to make a new one for my new phone because it barely fitted the old one. But it just means you can carry everything in that strongest part of your body, and don't have to carry a handbag. And because you have pockets, but most of us live without, which sucks. If you have a walker, just throw everything in the walker. They're really good for carrying things. Audio books, if you want to read, but you can't read. It's taken me years to get to the point where I can read a novel again. Audiobooks helped me get back to that point. They sort of trained my brain to follow a long form narrative. You can get, there are a lot of free audiobooks out there. The library has an audiobook app. You can download things for free. There's also Libby that has a lot of open source. They're all public domain books, so mostly older, they're the classics, and they read by volunteers, so you'll have multiple readers per book. They're varying quality. You can slow them down if you can't focus well enough on fast speech as well. And they've got timers. You can set timers, you can bookmark where you were so that if you fall asleep, they can go back and things like that. They're really helpful. One of the things with audiobooks is a lot of the people who do the reading will use different voices for different characters. And if, like me, you're struggling to focus and to follow a story, dialogue makes it really hard. I often can't remember can't keep track of who's saying what in a conversation. And having those different voices makes it really so much easier. And so you can start to follow the narrative more easily, and then your brain gets used to it. And so you can work your way back up to reading books. Don't limit yourself to what the designers thought that something was for. So use a potato peeler to cut little bits of butter off a cold block to put on your toast. It's really helpful. Potato peeler or a cheese slice can slice butter off a slice of a block. Nice little thin slices. They dissolve quick, so they melt quickly. Just because they say it's for potatoes doesn't mean you have to use it that way. Lots of little kitchen tools that are really helpful. Oven timers these days. Most ovens have timers. A lot of them will turn the oven off when the timer goes off. I know my parents' oven, it just buzzed, it didn't turn it off, but our current oven, the oven turns off. So you're not going to burn anything if you don't hear it. You can also set your oven to actually just turn on and off at certain times. It's great for brain fog. I wish it would do it for the stove. My flatmate, the number of times my flatmate said, Mia, are you cooking something? Oh my God, that thing that was on the stove 2 hours ago. These little mini blender things of the pull cord or a handle. Tupperware doesn't have the handle. You can also get them that are battery powered USB. They're about that big, and they're a blender. They're great for doing things like onions, garlic, and they take very little effort. I use them for making small batches of chocolate ganache, chocolate hummus. Dishwasher, microwave, if you don't have any of those. There's mandolin choppers. You can break your hand off if you're not careful, but they slice things really quickly. You can get these little cradles that tip your kettle for you as well, because you don't have to lift it. Laundry trolleys. So it's like a big X that you put your basket on, and you load everything from the washing machine into that. It means no bending down, limited bending and stretching. If you're want to dry things on a rack, if you want to hang dry things rather than tumble dry things, put your drying rack outside under the washing line or somewhere sunny. It doesn't have to be used inside. You can, even if you've got a perfectly good washing line there, stretching takes a lot of effort. It's exhausting. So just hang things on a rack. If you've got a perfectly good spot, it obviously gets the sun and the air. So stick your rack out there. If you use like a drinks dispenser type thing for liquid detergents, you don't have to lift the bottle. It's very trendy at the moment to do that, but mostly it's also just practical that you don't have to spend a couple of calories lifting that thing. Electric toothbrushes and water picks, just sit there, hold it against your mouth, and it does all the work for you. Even if you can't handle full 2 minutes of brushing, you get a lot more brushing done in whatever time you can handle. So, save yourself a little bit of effort. Remote control houses and robot servants. We live in the future. I don't have these, my dad does, and they're really cool. Wi-Fi motion sensors and timers and things on his light bulbs and every part of his house. So if I go and water his plants while he's on holiday, he gets a notification that says that I've come into the house because he's got timers on the lights that can tell, sensors on the lights that can tell him if someone was there. That's not so useful to us, but having the sensor, the motion sensor can be, like you walk in the room, the light turns on, walk out of the room, the light turns off. There are Wi-Fi and app controlled power boards now, and which you can use to power anything like heaters and stuff. So you can just on your phone go, oh, it's getting a bit cold, and turn that on. It turns it on. Or you can have it so that it knows when your phone is at home and heats up, or turns something on when your phone is at home, which is helpful. You don't have to remember to do things like turn the heater off. It goes, oh, you're not home anymore, I'll turn that off. Robot servants, that's those Roomba type things. They're great. They don't do as good a job as a normal vacuum cleaner, so you've got to do it every day for them to eventually pick it all up. But they can be set on a timer, so they can just go when you're asleep. Don't have to even worry about remembering to do it. Just have it set on a routine. Food is a big one. This is actually what had me crying at the doctor's. She was telling me to address things through my diet. For you. The usual rules don't apply to us. Nutritionists don't like pre-prepped food, convenience foods, because they're high in salt. But for most of us, not all of us, but most of us, high salt diets are recommended because it helps again with that blood volume thing. So check with your doctor whether you can handle high salt, and whether it is something that they recommend for you. Because if it is, you can just knock yourself out with convenience foods. Don't worry about the fact that they will say, oh no, high salt, don't do it. So it's all, it's fine. And they've come a long way too, actually. There's a lot of them are much healthier now. Having a fruit bowl in the bedroom means you can have a healthy high fiber snack right there. Fiber is really important for anyone who's immobile or less mobile than they were. We have to think very carefully about whether what we are eating is going to impact our bowels. So fruit bowls in the bedroom, good for that. Pre-made salad bags, aside from the fact that they are often cheaper than lettuces at the moment, you can just buy salad ready to go. Just tip it on your plate and it's food, it's veggies done. Don't have to chop anything. Pre-prepared vegetables. Just save yourself the effort. Pre-made soups and risotto pouches that you get from the deli fridges. They keep forever. They're like 2 months or something shelf life, and they can be frozen. Really easy. Open the pouch, heat it up. Food. Voila. Good source of protein as well. There are some amazing microwave ready meals. We had these plant-based ones. I think that was the brand. Like I think it was a Watties product. unfortunately it disagreed with my allergies, but they were really good. They quite filling, very healthy. Not as high in salt as many things. Breakfast bickies and boxed smoothies like Up and Go, One Square Meal, and the Belvita breakfast bickies. They're all designed to be more nutritionally balanced than your average biscuit. Like Up and Go is really, again, quite a healthy little package. And One Square Meal, quite a healthy little package. If your allergies don't restrict it. I've given you some recipes for things that I find are really easy to make. And next best thing, anything that's easy. So instant porridge. So you've got a recipe there for instant porridge. So that's the kind that you just pour boiling water into, stir it, and go. So this is how you make it at home. I used to make a not stirred, not fried microwave stir fry. And when I was in postgrad, basically it's a pouch of rice, some frozen veggies, some stir fry sauce in a pouch, and a can of meat. Like we used the chicken and spring water. But so you heat up the rice in the packet, you microwave your sauce and your vegetables together until they're quite hot, then you stir through your meat, stick them all on a plate, you're done. It's really easy. It takes about 5 minutes and you don't have to prep anything. You just sit there and wait for it to ding. This is what stopped me getting scurvy a second time during postgrad, because it was just as easy as making toast. Chocolate hummus. Okay, chocolate hummus is not actually something that's super easy. And it's easy to make, but it's a really yummy. I've made some for you to try. Really yummy and high fiber, high protein, sweet snack that it's healthy. And it's like ganache. It's great. But it is a little bit more effort. You throw it in the blender, it's not too bad, but it's not like eat it out of the packet kind of thing. Frozen fish parcels, another one I've given you a recipe for. It's something you make in advance. Making one is just as hard as making 15. Stick them in the freezer and then you just cook them as you need it. Slow cookers, anything in the slow cooker is good. I haven't given you recipes. There's lots of books out there. Boiled eggs, with caution. Boiled eggs, if you leave them in the shell, will last as long as a raw egg would last. So if your eggs have a month used by on them, that's how long your egg will last once it's cooked. Stick it in the fridge, might even last a bit longer. Just keep it in the shell. The shell is what protects it. Falafel bites. I make my falafel from scratch because I like that, but you can buy it in a powder or bottles. Make your shapes, stick them on a baking tray, bake it. Don't be a purist with the deep frying, just stick it in the oven. It's easy, it's like 30 minutes. Then you can freeze them or store them in the fridge and they last for days. Take your falafel bite, your bag of salad with some yogurt. There's a meal. It's a good meal. We lived on that over summer. Talk to your doctor about whether you need supplements. I'm not going to go into these in too much detail. Most of you know about them. Some supplements are helpful, some less helpful. It seems to be very individualized. This is a weird little side note. The Queen doesn't eat shellfish because of shellfish poisoning risk. Shellfish poisoning doesn't happen every time you eat shellfish, but it's a risk. In New Zealand, all shellfish are tested before they go to sale. But here's the fun little thing that applies to us. We're more sensitive than the laboratory test. So it's Russian roulette with food. It can be safe for on sale, but it may not be necessarily safe for us. And I've learned this one the hard way twice. One mussel had me in pain for 2 days and exhausted for 6 weeks. The other time I did it, I had muscles and they made me sick. I had enough of them that I actually threw them all back straight up within half an hour of eating them, which meant I was just tired the next day. But it was, it can be incredibly painful. And those muscles were commercially sourced. They'd been tested. Everything about them was within the bounds of safety. But when I looked it up, because I looked it up to see, is this what's happened? And I reported it to Primary Industries, and they confirmed it as well. So I saw it on the internet and they confirmed it. People with ME, fibromyalgia, and similar kinds of conditions are super sensitive to that particular toxin. There's something about our digestive systems that it just triggers. And so, unfortunately, that is not a protein available to us. You know, you may find that 9 out of 10 or even 99 out of 100 times you eat them, it's fine. But that one time that you eat them and it's not, can really, really be harmful.
Is it just mussel? Or-
Just shellfish, anything that's, yeah, anything in a that's filter fever and feeder in a shell. Prawns, you take the digestive system out, so it's not an issue for prawns. But like oysters, scallops, mussels, clams, like, I know. It is not a good, it was not good news. Well, after Ryan told me I was crying out in my sleep with the pain, and that was one mussel. I just had a taste of something off my mother-in-law's plate, and it's like everyone else slightly upset stomach from it, but barely noticed. And I was, oh, it was awful. This is really important. Get help if you need it. Being chronically ill is really hard on your mental health, and it's okay to ask for help. The leading cause of death for people with ME is suicide. According to one study in the UK, which I cannot remember where I saw it, again, I should have made a note of it, we're approximately 7 times as likely to die by suicide as the general population. Once you take suicide out of the equation, we have the same morbidity from any other causes as the general population, or fairly similar. So it's really important to keep an eye on your mental health and make sure you get help if needed. It's probably the most important thing for keeping us alive, is just to make sure that you keep that in check. So I've given you in the handout, there are the resources for all of these, or yeah, the websites for all of these organizations. These are all free, so you don't have to worry about the cost. Now, MECFS, Mental Health Education Resources, has a library, an online library. If you sign up, you can get books with on various topics, including grief and dealing with chronic illness. And they're free resources. They can also connect you to various support services, mental health agencies and things. There's lots of international and local support groups specifically for people with ME or long COVID. And there's 1737, the Need to Talk line. You can text it or call. It's free, and you get to talk to a trained counsellor anytime. It's Ministry of Health. Use them. And at last resort, if you can't find anyone else, you can always send me a message. I might not get it immediately, but you know, if you can't find anyone who's more qualified, but reach out to those around you. You know, even I am here to help. Don't promise to be particularly good at it, but I'm here. It's okay to not be okay. And we've all gone through the process of dealing with it. And again, it's iterative. We have times when we deal with it better than others. Learn to say no. This is the most important word you can learn. It might be just, I have this, my go-to answer for things now, which is brilliant because it just confuses things enough that people don't know how to go from there. Someone asks you to do something you don't want to do, say, oh no thanks, I'm driving. And they just like, Okay. But no is a complete sentence. You don't need to give excuses. If you want to say, I can't, or I'd love to, but I can't this time. Or if you just don't want to be asked again, just keep saying, I can't, I don't want to, and just repeat those until they go away. Eventually they will get bored and wander off. When asking for help, also be willing to accept no. It's very important. Others also have the right to say no. But I think no thanks, I'm driving is really good. It's so funny and just confuses people. They don't know what to say and they go away. Let yourself off the hook, especially on your bad days. If you're having a bad day, just say, all right, no more verbs. And that means no beating yourself up either. Beating yourself up is a verb. So no verbs. Pets help. Pets are very good for mental health. This is well documented in science. They also, a lot of them can tell when you are fatiguing before you can. My last cat would force me into bed, would physically hold me down if necessary, get between me and my cell phone. It's now almost exactly a year since he died, and I still cannot work out when I need to rest. I have been having a very, very hard time because of it. When you don't have much of a life, make the most of the life that you do have. So that might mean drinking your electrolytes from a cocktail glass, or having that Hollywood mirror for sitting to do your teeth. That bring some joy into the little things that you do. When you're cutting activities from your life, don't cut the things that bring you joy. Get rid of vacuuming. Vacuuming sucks. Nobody unless you enjoy vacuuming, don't include the vacuuming in the things that you're not going to do. But do include things like make sure that you include the things that you love doing. So if it's singing or playing a guitar or painting or going for a walk in the sunshine, try and make that fit. Try and laugh as much as you can. It is very good for your physical and mental health. And keep a to-done list. The to-done list is a list of just a couple of things at the end of the day that you actually achieved. And it might be that one day it's, you cleaned the entire house top to bottom. In other days, it might be, I changed my underwear. Because different days have different achievements, but recognizing that you achieved something, even if it was just that you changed your underwear, is important, because little things can make a difference. Sleep hygiene. Good sleep hygiene is important, because sleep is important. If you are having trouble sleeping, I can tell you, I can share my method if you want, but I'm not going to right now. If you're struggling to solve a problem, step away from it. Our brains don't work properly, so we may be focusing on the wrong details. When I first got sick, I was shopping with my family at Burrito Roll, and I was wearing some high-heeled shoes. I really wanted my sneakers, but they were in Brighton. And I tried to get my boyfriend at the time to drive to Brighton to get my shoes and bring them back, because I just so needed my shoes, and I couldn't see any other way of solving this problem. Ended up sitting on the floor of the Farmers Manchester department crying, because nobody understood that I needed my shoes, because they were all telling me that's a stupid idea. Eventually it was my sister who was like, what is actually the problem? And I said, I can't walk in these shoes. And she says, why don't we go to Kmart and get you some shoes? And I was like, okay. And it might have been that we needed to get me a wheelchair, or it might have been that, we just went and bought some jandals. That's all it needed, $5 jandals. But I couldn't get my head around it because I was focusing on the wrong problem. Because I wanted those shoes. I wanted different shoes, and I couldn't see that there were different shoes right here. But maybe just taking the shoes off was all I needed to do. But there are different. So step back. Our brains don't work properly, and it's important to remember that. Don't let avoid getting your hopes up. That excitement letdown cycle is really hard. So keep interested, but stay skeptical. And that's of any of the promises of a cure. It's very hard to have your hopes dashed repeatedly. You don't need to justify your existence. You already exist. You don't criticize a fish because it can't paint oiled landscapes. So you are the only one who can do you. So do you as best you can and leave it at that. Let yourself grieve, because we have lost something significant. Every one of us, we've lost a lot of different things. And none of it was your fault. So forgive yourself. Don't beat yourself up for something that you couldn't help. Right. Questions or your own tips? There's too many things.
Well, I'd like to make one with that. Just get yourself a walker and you don't need all those things if you do.
Yes, walker, amazing.
Trolley, that's to put everything on. And
Yeah. I don't use my walker at home because we have stairs. Yeah, absolutely. The walker is so good. I was really resistant to getting a walker because walkers are for old people. And, you know, I used it and it was just amazing. It was fantastic. Just being able to sit anytime I'm like, I need to sit down. I'm sitting down. It's great. And carrying things can feel useful. Any other questions or tips of your own?
About all this mopping tools.
Yeah.
I've actually invested in a thread mop.
Oh, that's just
Right.
wider. So you do it
Yeah.
in fewer strokes. Oh,
I'll tell you
nice.
what, it's good. Go around my thread, it's fast, it's quick, better than the small one.
That's, I didn't know there was such a thing.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
Oh no, actually I've seen them for big like school
Yeah,
halls and stuff.
My daughter's friend, who she lived with for that years ago. They got a head big dog, and it was just starting to get a shape, and things had come off, shelves and broken. And she went, oh, not the floor. And she came out and I went, what the hell's that? And it was all this, you know, microphone thing.
Yeah.
And it was huge. And she said, oh, it's brilliant.
Oh, that's great.
Between the wall and the island, it
Just
went
one
down
pass.
here, one stroke and around and stuff.
You can also get Roombas with a tank and with a water tank and a mopping
Oh, yeah.
attachment.
That was fun. And the other
They're
thing
very
about
expensive.
I iron sitting down.
You
Not
iron
too
something,
bad.
yeah.
But another thing I found with quick device for ironing is actually a steamer.
Yes, I had that in the notes, but I had to skip past it.
Yeah.
The steamers are great, handheld, and they just shoot it.
Yeah. No iron, no hard back.
Also safer for your clothes, you're less likely to burn them.
How's the occupation here of soup sitting in the bin?
That was the perching stool. Your it's basically it's sort of like a very medical device looking bar stool. It's sturdy. It's more sturdy than many bar stools, and it doesn't turn. Yeah, it's just got really long legs. It does have a slight tilt to the seat so that it's more like leaning on it than sitting. But yeah, they're adjustable too. I find I don't use my perching stool all the time just because the effort of dragging it to where I need to be often isn't worth it for the time of the task. Yeah, Kmart have a lot of mobility devices these days. Yeah, they're not as high quality as the ones that you get through an occupational therapist, but if you don't, if you can't get to see an occupational therapist, there's quite a delay. It can be worth getting a few things. Oh yeah, and Bargain Chemist also have them. Yeah. Yeah, they have quite a few. And some good looking walking sticks.
I'm just wondering if maybe we wrap up.
Yeah.
Time over that.
We can share more tips and tricks over afternoon tea.
Yeah.
I can show you the burrito roll if anyone wants to know. So you roll your duvet in and out of the duvet cover. You can do it from your bed, inside your bed. Yeah.
Thank you so much for putting together all these steps. And this will for us and people have a lot to take.
Yeah, hopefully someone got something out of it.
So thank you.